back and forth, blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh. You see what's happening? I can't believe I just did this. That's it. Okay. Hey guys, today we're working on the back end of the 51 Ford, and as you can see, I've approached today's video a little bit differently. I went ahead and roughed in kind of a wireframe buck for the back here, shaped up a few panels, just to give you guys an idea where we're going, because for me to try to explain and wave my arms around and say we're going to do this and that and around like this, you know, not everybody gets it. That's okay. What we have here is a clean, really smooth looking back end, rear fascia. This panel mimics the curvature of the trunk lid. So it's not a flat area. It actually comes down as a semi-bulge, rolls around, and then returns back underneath the car. And we're going to do something special with the bottom. We're not going to cut a couple holes. We're going to add something to that. Back in through here, you can see this is the raw edge of the quarter. It kind of wraps around and ends because, well, I haven't gotten that far yet. I thought I'd bring you guys along. This side, however, I've formed up a really neat little reverse curve that extends from this feature. There's going to be kind of a peak, not a real peak, but a small peak that extends down from the top of the quarter, rolls down and fades off down here. So we're going to have to take a roll of flange on here and mate that up with this quarter, which has been rolled around and just about finished. There's a flange that returns inward. We gotta take it off one more time, sharpen it up, dial it in, get it on. So I'm gonna wheel up one more piece just like this with you guys, and we're gonna get these two reverse curves fitted up. There we go. And in the center, we're gonna have a license plate. Above the license plate, we're going to have those LEDs that roll around down the side of the car, come around the back. And there's going to be a kind of a split back here. We're going to have the backup lights, center brake light, and then along the top, we're going to have our running lights. You'll see them when they arrive in the mail. They're going to be really cool. Now, if you remember, this trunk lid originally used to come down to about here, maybe about here. And the whole bottom end, it looked good, but it was tons of pinholes. So we got rid of it, cleaned it up, brought it up to here, which allowed us to do this little channel deal for the taillights. Now I get it, not everybody's gonna be a fan of this 51 Ford. It's not a traditional hot rod, it's not a, you know, whatever, but that's okay, it's a custom car. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll turn out nice in the end. If not, well, we'll customize it some more. You never know. This license plate is gonna be recessed into the rear fascia area. And I'm not sure if we're going to take and, now I can hear some of you guys saying, this looks a lot like the 49. Yes, it does, to a degree. I love what they did with the 49. I always wanted one for myself, but they only made two, I think, a black one and a burgundy one. Well, this is kind of my take on the 49. And rather than build a whole body from scratch, this 51 lent itself really well. Now we could have replaced quarter panels and all that stuff and all, you know, kept it original. But it'll look just like another original 51 Ford. That's where we put our little fingerprints all over it. Anyway, license plate recessed in. We'll do that later on. Right now, what I want to work on is taking these wire rods off because they are interfering with me setting all these pieces in. I've got the line where I need it to be. That's basically down through there. You know, kind of look at it this way, compare this side. Yep, close enough, good. And I mentioned we're going to do something special with the lower area of this rear valance. Instead of taking and just cutting out the sheet metal and leaving a raw edge, maybe turning an edge inward, we're going to take and tunnel the rear fascia inward. So I made up these pieces here, just bent them up and use a slip roll, roll them, and we're going to take and cut out a hole, roll the edge, give it a nice little radius, and weld these in, tunneling in that rear fascia. So when you look from the side, from the back, it's a nice finished area that extends inward into the underside of the car. So that's going to look really cool. We'll obviously have to take this off. I think the curvature is just about there. A little flat in through here, so we'll wheel it up a little bit more, get that addressed, but I don't want too much of a bulge. I want this thing to kind of decrease from up here and get more subtle as it comes down. Just like these reverse curves, they're gonna kind of fade off into nothing. Now, earlier on, there were a few comments about the roof saying that we should have taken the crown out of the roof, did a cut around the perimeter, flattened it out. The problem with that is, well, we'd have to flatten out the trunk lid and we'd have to flatten out the hood. Right now, trunk lid has a nice curvature and then matches the curvature of the roof, which matches the curvature of the front hood. So it's consistent all throughout. And along with these tunneled in exhaust areas, we're also going to take, and there's a cosmetic cover piece that covers the underside of the Infiniti. We're going to take and create a little flange around the perimeter of that on the rear fascia and kind of work in a detail. So when you look underneath, it's nice and clean, nice and smooth. The exhaust is gone, pulled that out to make more room to work in there. We'll get the car up a little bit later, up in the air. Right now, what I want to do, like I mentioned, I need to scribe this line where it's going to be on this quarter panel because everything's kind of clamped where it has to be. And then we'll cut these tacks up here, pull these rods off, giving us the freedom to start fitting the panels to each other. And I almost forgot, the reason we have to pull these rods off as well is because we need to fit these curved channels that are going to hold the tail light LEDs around the corner in place. And with that rod in the way, we can't fit these up exactly where they need to sit. We're going to put this panel into the tipping wheel and create an offset flange here so that the panel that's underneath actually sits into a recessed area so that you don't really feel a difference in height. It just flows from one to the other. Here we're going to cut this out, roll the flange, fade it off into about here, and then it'll be flat going in, and then this will go up and pick up the structure on the inside. It's always difficult to get started, to start rolling the edge over. It has to know where you're going to be. As soon as you have a bit of a flange, then you can hold your dolly, this part, up against that, and you'll have more control. But just getting started is a bit tricky. These are little tucks that are being created as I'm rolling it. And as I'm rolling it down, I'm actually pounding those tucks into themselves. So we had this material here, basically this shape of the material, maintaining this curvature. Here we have so little material that it's doing whatever it wants to do. So we're going to use this little tucking tool that I created to create some tucks in this area. See, it's going to pull it down. Don't want to create too big of a tuck, just a little bit. Come on. It's on a radius, so it's a little bit tricky. Good, and one more. There. So we'll work those in. We can kind of smooth them out right now, but the fact is that's being thrown around, so we'll work that in when we create this tunnel piece. You don't want to peen this edge and create more material. You want to just roll the material over. If you start peening it, it's going to open up, and that's not what you want. we're just getting started. This is the initial roll. Once you get the piece kind of orientated, tacked in place, we're going to finalize that radius and make sure it's consistent all the way around. That's it. So these pieces are going to fit into those areas. We'll take and scribe it from the inside once the panel is back in the car, because this is just moving around and I don't want to tack it this way on the bench and have it not fit over there. There we go. So we can take and cut that off, creating that flange, put some nutserts or whatever on this side, or just drill holes. And I like kind of a nut and bolt fastener. We'll use some socket head bolts, yes, and make a nice clean finish on the bottom. We'll trim away the excess. What I'm holding here is a piece of sheet metal that I kind of bent around and curved to the rear fascia. But it's not the right curve, not even close. What we need is a reverse curve. And if you've never seen a reverse curve take shape, it's something pretty amazing. So we're going to jump over the English wheel and I'm going to show you how it differs from a convex panel such as this or this. So what we're going to do, we're going to take and flatten it back out. And we're going to put it through the wheel upside down, so face side towards the floor, because that's the way we want our curve to happen. And take and push it down with the rubber wheel. The 18 gauge is a little tricky to work with sometimes. There, so I've just broken the panel, squish it down some more. Ah, much better. Need the right pressure. It's like a diamond. Get the right pressure, you get diamonds, right? But we're nowhere near the cut of a beautiful diamond just yet. See? Cut and cut. Forgot to wipe the marks off, but that's okay. We have to wash all these panels before we prime them later. Now, we can adjust this curvature later. All I'm creating is a tube. Now, this is the bottom, that's the top. We're going to have more curvature, reverse curvature up here than down below, but I just want to kind of break the panel. We can go to the car and I can show you how far off we are, but it's kind of pointless because this is a straight line. And we're going to need a lot of curve to this to fit up to that panel there. Now, if I take and I break this, say over my knee, all we're going to get is a bunch of creases here because the center area is too long. We need to take and stretch the outside edges to allow the panel to roll down. Watch and see. You may have noticed that we have our upper anvil holder redone. Inserted some bushings because all I did at the time when I built this, I just drilled a hole and slid a pin through. Well, over time, that pin got elongated. So sometimes when you watch me wheeling, you can see this upper wheel kind of wandering. It's just a matter of finding some downtime to get it to the machine shop. So here we go. What we have is a high crown lower anvil because we do have a radius and I need to just push on the very edges. I guess I could put in a flatter anvil, but I'm lazy. Sounds good. And again, we're going to roll this upside down. Now, that's the top, this is the bottom. We're going to need a lot of curvature at the bottom. So we're just going to back this off a little bit. I'm doing it with this anvil first, just to show you that a little quicker as to what's going to happen. Now you can already see it. We have some curvature happening because what we're doing is we're stretching the outside edges, squishing it down, pushing it out. I'm going to go back to my lowest crown anvil. You're going to say, no, no, stop. What are you doing? You have a curve in the panel. And I'm going to say, yeah, you're right. But we're going to wheel in an area. I got to make sure that's down. We're not wheeling the center. And I want to see what the high crown anvil is doing is creating a bunch of very narrow tracking marks, kind of rippling the edge. So what we're going to do is just, oh, you can see it already, a little more gently. See the difference? That's pretty much flat here, and that's really rolling up. You can see ramping up, but it's not really ramping up, unless you're a skateboarder. And we have to keep stretching this until we achieve that curvature that I had about 10 hours ago when I was showing you the piece on the car. Actually, it was about 15 minutes ago. Just back and forth. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh. You see what's happening? I can't believe I just did this. See those ripples there? That's no bueno. That's too much material for the curvature that we have here. I have to take and move the wheeling zone inward towards the center, but not wheel the center. By wheeling that up there, in this area here, that'll actually straighten this out. Straighten this out. It'll straighten this out while still giving us a curve. And sometimes when you need to sneak around on a panel, see what that is? It's called a shim. And we're going to shim the outside of the lower anvil's axle. Just kind of raise it up a little bit. And we're not going to wheel the edge, we're going to move in. Now you have to know your wheel. You see that ripply edge? We stretched just inside of the initial wheeling zone or wheeling area, and created some more stretch in this, which straightened this out. So we have a ways to go. We can remove the shim for now. You don't want that. Something landed on the anvil. Let's see now. Much better. Okay, like I said, this is the bottom. I should indicate that, but that's fine. What I'm going to do is kind of move in and out with this panel, stretching here and stretching there, stretching here and stretching there. And you're going to work one side against the other. You're going to see this will be flat and that'll be more curved. Turn it around, stretch this, give this more curvature, flatten that out. Well, not flattening it, but it'll be more flat than the other side. See what's happening? Look at that. Now, pop quiz, hotshots. If we overstretch, how can we correct the panel? Put it down in the comments. give you the answer at the end. There's a pretty good chance I might overstretch it. I'm using my micrometer to determine the curvature, so hopefully it's been calibrated right. See, all the wobbliness, we have to take and straighten that out after. Right now I'm just getting a lot of curvature fast. You could use a kick shrinker, but what's going to happen is you're going to get a whole bunch of claw marks, bite marks, jaw marks. It's going to make a mess. Now you probably, if you've been watching our channel, seen me do this on the 40 Ford on the rear quarter. There's a video where I start off with some cardboard on the quarter panel. Well, this is a little easier because it's smaller. And this is something you could practice on. You can hear how much tension I've got set up on it. So we're moving a lot of material fast. Now, what you just saw me do there, I've shown this before, if I try jamming the panel in, it's not going to go in very easily. See, that's not good. If I go in a bit of a kitter corner, look at that, like butter, just slides right in. Insert lowbrow joke now. Like, check that out. We are really developing a lot of curvature while maintaining this shape. And that's looking pretty good. And you can see by the shininess where we've wheeled and where we've stopped. And depending which side I need more curvature on is the side I wheel more. We're going to go to the car, see how this looks. I know this bottom isn't curved enough. Now if I say, okay, that's it, we're done, bend this, what's going to happen is we're going to create a wrinkle here. I could do it to show you. Should I? Yeah. Let's do it. There. So you see, nice curvature, goes flat, and a nice curvature, meaning we don't have enough material in this little area here, and we have a crease, very subtle. I don't want to go crazy and have to spend an hour fixing it. So what we're going to do is wheel up this little area here and this area here, and we're going to restore that curvature. The Jaws theme song right there. Do 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 do. That's a slasher flick. Making music with an English wheel. Some people compare it to Mozart. If I start playing Mozart, I'll probably lose 10 subscribers right away. Okay, so let's go fit this on the car. Let's go fit this on the car. You probably couldn't see the top, and we're going to see how this looks. Wouldn't you know it? The micrometer has been calibrated well this morning. Look at that. I'm going to throw you guys in here. I'm going to show you what it looks like from this side. I like this. If I could just hold this upright. Okay, you see the top is kind of diving in. We have too much curvature, so we're going to flatten that out. Down below is coming in really well. And right where my thumb is, that's out a little bit because the top is over curved. We are essentially fitting to that rear fascia panel all the way down and around. Now, I had mentioned that I'd show you this at the end of the video, how to correct the panel, but we're not at the end yet. What you're going to do is going to very carefully shrink that edge. Just light pressure. You don't want to put your foot through the floor. And what I've done there is I've shrunk the amount of material we had here. I'm not worried about the jaw marks too much, as long as I have that nice consistent curve. Because what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to take this edge and roll it inward to mate up with the quarter panel. The quarter panel comes into here. This is going to be scribed to the rear fascia. That's pretty good overall. I'm happy with that. We might actually cut some of that away, and that'll blend into the rear fascia. Now I have to make sure that these shapes match what's on the driver's side. I was kidding about using the micrometer. We use gauges, and we're going to get that fitted up. That's sitting a whole lot better up there, and sliding around a little bit. That's going to be good there. A little bit of a twist. That's it. All right, next step, get this thing to fit, to look like this side. So you see how that's blending into the rear fascia? I trimmed some material off, actually this much. Took it off, rolled a 90-degree-ish edge along here, and got this to fit in. Now, once you start rolling flanges, you can't really adjust curvatures too well. You need to have this panel sitting pretty close to where you want it, because then once you roll this, the only curvature you can adjust is the very edge of the panel and not this in through here. This is coming in really well. It fades off as it goes to the bottom. I don't want a big butt hanging out on this car. I want it to be smooth, graceful, subtle, smooth. I said that already. And no, I haven't been drinking, except for a lot of coffee. So that's the first part of the bend, trying to roll over. Now, what's going to happen here, we're going to get too much material here. We have to actually, when we roll it down, probably shrink that edge just a little bit. It's hard to guess and figure out everything at one time. So you got to read the panel. Just watch what's happening. If you did something to the panel, like say overstretched it, and it didn't take on the shape you wanted it, well, just say, oh, I got to shrink it. And sometimes it's easier said than done. Yeah, come on. There's many times where you can fix a panel. Because, to be honest, that is our scrap bin, which is essentially a bunch of cuttings and drops and whatever off the panels. We don't have too much waste. All right. Now, if you're writing all this down, next step is going to be to take and roll this edge over all the way. And I'm seeing something I don't like. We have a bit of a jog in this panel here. Uh-oh. Let's see how this fits on the car. This is what you're doing to me right now. I messed up. Now, it could be intentional, or it could be because I don't know what I'm doing. This flange that I just rolled over so carefully on the tipping wheel is supposed to be over here. What I've essentially done is create two driver's side pieces. This is no good. So we can take and throw this out and start all over again, or we can go to the English wheel And very carefully, with light pressure initially, level that flange out. Here I was talking about all the scrap we don't make. Can we save this? Should I cue the suspenseful music? I don't know, guys. Might be the first time I create a piece of scrap metal. Hey, hey, hey. See? Almost gone. Except we got a lot of waviness going on. So, put it in upside down. And what does waviness mean? For those who are writing all this down. Except for that line, right there, you can barely see it, we are left with a very flat flange, which might have too much curvature for our quarter panel or our rear fascia panel. So let's go check it out again. And this time we'll bend the right flange because it's on your right-hand side. We're good. This time, we're doing it on the right side of the panel. Very, very, very good. Okay, so I have a little too much material down below. I'm going to trim it down, kind of have a little bit just like in through here. I guess I could have done that earlier, but it's a little bit easier to roll a little more material than a little bit less material. And we are going to go to this dolly that I set up earlier. There we go. Just cut this off a little bit here, level it out. This actually fell at about 20 gauge. I've seen questions before where you ask me how thin does a sheet metal get after wheeling it. Well, this is a prime example. We can put the sheet metal gauge on this edge and just do a feel as to how thick that is versus this, because the center is still 18. Okay, now it's probably hard for you to see these numbers on here. So there's 18. Right there. Feels good. And if we test this here, let's try 19. A little more slop. 20-ish, yeah, feels like 20. Let's go 21. 21, a little tighter, you see? So probably can't get 22 on there. No, not exactly. So we're down to 21, and we're at 20 at this point. But by wheeling this extra from that mess up, it's thinned it out a little more. Not a problem, because what we're going to do after we roll that over, we're going to take and pretend that never ever happened by cutting it off. Essentially, this is a very thin knife edge, but because it's a plowshare, it's very hard steel. So you can make up dollies from just about anything. If you use mild steel, it's going to peen over eventually. You'll get a mushroom, but you need some hardened steel, a truck spring if you have it, anything, a tool steel of any kind, old ball peen hammer, whatever. By rolling this flange over, this panel is actually straightened back out. Gives a whole new meaning to hand shaping metal. Because yeah, you can hand shape with an English wheel, you can hand shape with a hammer and dolly. And that's how I learned metal shaping, with a hammer and dolly. Got a row of hammers over there. There's other hammers we have kicking around. Just worked away at it until I learned how the metal behaved. So here we have our piece. And as I suspected, we have from here down, it kind of just drops down. So we have to shrink the material at this point. Just going to bring that back around. And pretty much like it was made for this side. Actually, it was made for this side, which is a good thing. You can see, we've got some daylight going on there. We got about this much excess on this piece. So we're going to move back, scribe it, cut it, and fit it up into place. Now the only time you might end up with scrap is if you cut the panel too small. There's no real good way to pull the metal apart. You'd have to make up a whole new panel. It's darn windy out there. Where did that come from? I'll kneel on that later. Okay, let's see how this fits. Isn't that beautiful? All right, let's throw some clamps on this, a couple screws, and then we'll make sure that everything flows in the way it should be. Come here, vice grip, vice grip, vice grip, vice grip. That's good. You really don't need a clamp there, but if I want to put a screw in here, by the time I get through the first layer and start cutting into the second layer with the screw, it's going to push that away. Or if you use a drill bit, you'll get through the first one, the drill bit will go past, and it'll snap off on you. Okay, I don't want to crush it because there's a bit of a space there, create dents. All I want to do is bring it together. And we can throw in one more down here. That's looking good. Scribe this like that. Once we get these side pieces in, then we can take and finish these exhaust tunnels up. But until these are in, can't do too much. A couple witness lines here and here. That's good. Do the same here. And what else can we do? I'm not cutting this out until the ends are pinned. Let's get a Sitting at 86 degrees. I'm sitting at, come on. First time was right. See? The micrometers don't lie. You do it long enough, you kind of get a feel for things. Okay, so we're 86 on both. I'll prove it. So you can see we're stuck to the side, and that says 86 degrees. Sorry, I'm shaking. Okay, we're lined up. And what does that say? Trying to get the camera to focus here. 80, heavy 86? I can't see from here. Holding the camera all at the same time. I'd say that's 86 right there. So we're good. And the other thing we have to check are these curvatures and make sure that they are where they need to be. And I'd say, yep, they're the same from side to side. Now we can go ahead, cut, clamp, weld. And I'll bring you guys in once we're more or less ready to chop that hole out. We can't do this just yet. We're going to finish that afterwards. I want to, like I said, get these welded on. And I guess we could do that. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I rolled these earlier in the slip roll, but they're a little bit too tight, so we're going to open them up. I want to scribe it to the rear fascia with a little bit of an allowance, but we're going to have to kind of adjust here. That's better. I think we can work with that. Perhaps a little more, why not? Don't want to crease it when I'm bending it. Oh, that's much better. There we go. So now, woo. Go ahead and scribe that. That's the shape we need, this part here. And since this edge has been rolled, it gives us a nice finished edge. We can cut back on this surface here after we take and cut the majority off, and just kind of make a few little adjustments and fit it up to the flange we rolled inside. Passenger side should be the same. What we do on one side, we do to the other. Yes, it is. So we'll cut out two pieces. There we go. So now we can go fit this. Yeah, that's going to work out quite well. So we're going to have a bit of a shield that comes out. I'm kidding. This is the part we want. Ha ha ha. So actually like this. It's going to go in right there. Wow. It's a little bit tricky because of all the shapes going on here. There's a mount inside here for the exhaust. Are you done already? As I said, there's a mount in here for the exhaust, and this is bumping up against it. I guess you're not done yet. So we're going to take and cut off 1/4 inch, allow this to slide back a little bit, and I think we're going to put maybe 3 tacks on this to maintain shape. Pull off the whole rear fascia, get it on the table, final fit all this. It's really close, but if I take this off now and try to fit it, there's a big chance, big probability that when we go to put it back in the car, it's not going to have the same shape as the one we took it off with. Yeah. See, I rolled up about 1/4 inch, and it's consistent all the way around. So we shouldn't be too bad in terms of fitting all this in. We'll get the burr off on the inside, get rid of that. And yeah, so let's cut off 1/4 inch. The back is going to have a nice, clean, simple, straightforward look. Not too many things going on. Boom. Clip that in there. Actually, how do you do this? Where they can get the second one cut out to match this one exactly. These holes are identical, this is identical, and we'll have no trouble fitting everything in together because I believe that structure on the Infiniti is the same as what it is over here. I hope, unless there's like an inch variance. You never know. Production cars, they do all sorts of funny stuff. Okay. Here you go. All right. So now we go ahead, get this tacked in place. It's a little bit tricky because you need like 3.5 arms to get this in. Maybe I can use my teeth. Hold this. That's one tack. That's attack number 2. And we're just going to leave that in suspended animation, not really, so that we can form in the rest of that perimeter, get that done. I think I'm going to unroll this just a little bit, soften it up a little. Let's get the other side in, and then we can take this whole thing off and kind of finalize it. But before we do that, we're going to take and cut this hole out for the license plate. It's getting heavy. I think that season's over with. Like the look of that. Looks good there. It's flowing in. All right. Let's cut this hole out. We have a whole heck of a lot of stuff going on in here. We've got these 2 ends. They've been tacked in place. They're holding the curvature of the main panel. We've got these tunnels created, radiused, and pieces installed. The bottoms have to be welded, but overall the shape is sitting where it needs to. When we take this out, it's going to maintain that shape. This lower plastic area I showed you earlier, that's been, I think I did. Well, anyway, there's a little pan here that comes in from underneath the Infiniti. It's a cosmetic piece that covers up the evaporative system. That's been set into a recess that goes into the bottom of this panel here, the rear fascia. And now finally, in order to get in and scribe the fascia to the channel, there's a flange that rolls down, basically down here somewhere. I haven't put some marks, but we're not positive exactly where they are. I can't get them for the end to scribe it properly. So we're going to take and cut out the license plate area, reach in, scribe that, and that'll be it. So then all we have to focus on is creating a license plate recess, setting it in, and creating an area for the license plate light. Can't forget about that. I'm only rolling over 1/2 inch of material into that recess because I can work relatively easily with 1/2 inch. You start rolling any more and your radiuses start acting up. You have to start doing some heavy duty shrinking in the corners or stretching in the corners. So 1/2 inch is a good amount of material to work with. So that's done. Just do this. And you got to remember to cut to the bottom line. Not that bottom line. I was hoping you guys would catch me. That bottom line, which is the bottom of the top line. Now we can use this as a template for the next piece we create to stick in there. It's going to be set in kind of like that. If I put it up there, it'll probably come down and chop my head off. So as I've been working on this, I've been kind of studying it and making sure that everything is looking the way it needs to look back here. It's not a lot going on, but at the same time, there's a lot of curves that have to flow into each other, and it's gonna look good. Next step is to clear the table off, set up the TIG, grind these welds down, planish everything out, make sure all the edges come together nice, and weld it up. Same as those tunnels, weld those up. And we should scribe this from the back side so that we're ready to install it. I'll probably leave a couple tabs so we can put a couple screws in for the ease of removal. I'll roll this in and maybe, we'll see, start on the next piece, start on the actual license plate recessed part. I like to get all this together, you know. Now see how easy it is? I can just slide my hand right in there, cut my elbow on the burrs over here. It all works out. All right. Now I'm sure you guys can relate. You probably cut yourself so many times that things don't bleed anymore. You're dried up, no more blood. So, but you still got to be careful because you don't want to get an infection. That would be bad. Yeah. So we'll leave a little tab up here. You've seen me do this before. Do something like that. Let's clamp this, say over here. We'll put a tab there. Space it out about there, and we'll put a tab here. So we'll cut this down, leaving 4 tabs across the top. I got a couple screws in right now, so we can just get this in and mount it for whatever we need to do, because we're gonna have these pieces on and off a number of times before everything's final welded. Sometimes you blink and there's 6 hours gone. Just where did it go? It all goes into... Just thinking about this part here. I think it would look better if we went in a bit of an angle with the license plate recess instead of going straight in. All right guys, so I just finished rolling this flange over for the license plate recess. Let's get this on the car, take a look. The other thing I've done is finished up these reverse curves, join the panels together, as well as the exhaust tunnels. That's all done. And this little reveal, threw one in here because that cover that's on the underside of the car has kind of a molding bump in the molding. So that's gonna sit in that recess, double recess. So that should come out quite nice under the car. And well, that side's been done too, so. Perfectamundo, everything's lining up so far. And the ends, look at that. Oh, right there. So that's fitting like a glove. 2 more screws. We're gonna have a look and see. I better not put that there, it'll probably come down on my head. Now, there's an area down here where that cosmetic panel goes up against the bottom of this rear fascia area with 2 fasteners. Let's get a light underneath and I'll show you what's going on. Now, question for you guys. Back in the day, did anybody refer to those incandescent lights with the metal shield as a trouble light? I don't know if it's a regional thing or if it's just our thing, but back in the day before LEDs came out, we used to call them trouble lights. And I was told that if you ever dropped it on the floor in a pool of gasoline, you'd be in a world of trouble. Put it down in the comments, let me know. If we line things up, it's gonna fit in quite nicely. Looks good. The holes are aligning, and it's kind of hard to do this with one hand. But once everything's mounted on the fasteners from the underside, that's all screwed up into place, we should be good to go. And you can see the tunnels are going in nice and smooth. Okay, so now what we need to work on is getting this license plate recess finished. And then we can take, and this panel will be pretty much done. Now this was cut out earlier, and if we set it in like this, we need to figure out the best way to place this panel. If we put it vertical, it's not going to look too great. If we put it at an angle, I think the angle is going to be good. We need to incorporate a license plate light up inside here, a small one. It's a little LED light that goes up inside. And I'm just looking up here. We're going to have the running lights in the top bar of the LED. Across the license plate, we can probably put the telling people you're going in the backwards direction light. And we can have our turning signal, brake light, turning signal, brake light. So that's going to look good there. Getting back to this, see, this is what designing on the fly looks like. So if you look up in the dictionary, designing on the fly, you're going to see this. If we step in about 3/4 of an inch at the bottom, and at the top, 1.5-ish, it should look pretty good. Unfortunately, I can't stretch this panel out any larger than this. So we're gonna have to go to some sheet metal, new piece, enlarge it, and form it up to fit into this hole. We don't need this anymore, except for the template. After cutting out this panel, went ahead and English wheeled it to give a bit of convex shape. You don't want a flat panel in there, you want a little bit of shape to it. And that shape became compromised when we rolled this up 90 degrees. It basically flattened the panel out and created an oil can in the panel. So I went ahead and wheeled this using the English wheel with a lower anvil tipped on edge with a little shim. And you can see the shiny mark there, kind of stretch this out. And as you can see, we've got a curvature back in the panel. It's about a 1/4 inch there, maybe a little bit less because we started working this bottom area. And that corrected the oil can. Now we can keep going and roll this up. I think the rest of the way we're going to do by hand. So we didn't make a complete mess out of it, but you can see this material is starting to bunch up here. It means we have too much. The other thing is I need to take and stand this up a little bit more. So let's use a hammer and dolly and bring that up the rest of the way. Essentially, I'm creating tucks here and I'm shrinking the material into itself. We got a head start with the shrinker, but I finished it off with a hammer and dolly. Shrunk it down, brought it in together. Basically a series of small tucks, you can tell right there, tuck, tuck, and tuck. Hammered the material into itself, developed that radius, and that's what I'm doing right here, just shrinking it down. A few minutes to clean it up. We're getting close. I think that's going to be it. A little more. Bring it in a little tighter. The radius on the rear tail fascia will tell us exactly where we need to be. Use a holder to help us fit this. Can't really pull on it. We're very, very close. We have, I'd say, too much material up here. What's happening is it's kind of binding up on top. Line center up, line those up, and line that up. So this curvature is a lot greater than what we have here. So I need to take, and thin this out. Just bring that back a bit. I'm going to cut it all away, just some of it, so that it actually comes out past, and then we can scribe the front edge of this to what we have here. Another way of doing this is drilling a couple of holes, creating a little bracket that kind of resembles what we need for our license plate and being able to pull it in. But I don't want to do that yet. Ooh, that's, wow, okay, almost there. Okay, this has to come out a little bit more. Everything else is flowing in. These radiuses are coming in okay. Yeah. I'm going to play with this for a few more minutes, fit it in, then I'll bring you guys in once we're more or less ready to tack this in place. All right guys, so just about ready with this piece to get it into that hole and get a few tacks on it. So what I did, I went ahead and gave it some curvature this way. We rolled this flange up, gave it a bit of stretch so that it conforms to the curvature here, curved it outward or upward this way so it conforms to the convex shape outward, and adjusted that flange the same as this one here. So now we can go ahead and actually fit this into the hole. Got a couple of tails up on top that I can actually grab onto and kind of align here, fit, and with some vice grips, pull it home, hopefully. There. Now I can't clamp it to anything else, but what we're going to do is very carefully, actually I'm going to make one more adjustment, bring that upward a little bit more so that we don't have any water collecting in here. That's the last thing you want, is little pools of water. So I'm going to take and roll that flange of this license plate area downward. That'll go up inside a little bit more and help us hide the license plate light. Once I've got it fitted into the hole, I can make the adjustments, more or less fine-tune it in with the fascia off. So we've gone up a little bit there. Oops. I think this is the point where we're going to get a few little tacks on it. It's pretty darn close. It's so close it sits there by itself. Look at that. Don't need to do anything. It actually looks pretty cool. We can have like a little light around the perimeter and kind of highlight the license plate. No, we're going to smooth it out, weld it in solid. See, anything is possible, and we can go all out on this, but I want to be driving this car this summer. Not next year, not the year after, this summer. Watch your eyes. See how well that's fitting up? So right now I'm going to take and massage these flanges. Didn't actually have to shrink that much, so now we got to stretch it back out to match up with that. But that looks really good in through here. So let's get something different for the corners. Something like this. Once we have it shaped into where we need it, I'll go ahead and take it off and weld it on the table. And this has to be brought out as well because you have a bit of a gap there. Okay, let's measure the depth. Okay, that's 1.5 inches there. I don't know if you guys can see. On this side, we are at 1.5 inches. How did that happen? Got lucky. It sounds and feels really nice. I need to preload this panel upward in the middle. Okay, so with everything welded up, ground smooth, almost finished, we'll get this on the car, take a look at it. screw in screw hole. One done. Something doesn't want to line up 100% yet. Where is the hole? Did something shrink? Something may have shrunk. Yeah, little bit. Not bad though. Uh-oh. Just dropped a screw. Okay, I think I can get the one on the end. It's in. No screw. Yes, it is right here. See, by welding this up, it shrank just a little bit, but hey, it's on the car and it feels really good. There's no tension in this area. All it did was just get sucked in a little bit. Now, I'm not saying it's a sucky panel. It's just, it shrank. But as you can see, we are on the rod. We're down there. The plastic cover is lining up. Yep, it's lining up where it has to be. And I think we can call this piece done. Almost. We need one more piece to stick in here, on here I should say. And the other thing I just noticed from down below, a little bit of an oil can here that has to be popped up, and that'll happen when this top flange is welded to the channel. But we're not doing any more welding for now. We're gonna get the quarters on, make sure everything lines up, get these corners in, get rid of the rods, we no longer need them. And yeah, license plate. I think the battery on the phone is going. Okay, and there we have it. Now, I'm not gonna drill. Can we drill it? No. We're gonna leave it as it is for now. I don't wanna create any holes just yet. I'd love to, but that's what it's gonna look like right there. There'll be a little light up above, recessed in underneath, so you won't even see it. And well, that's it. So I think it came out quite well. We have a bit of a shed here. It's angling down, so no water's gonna sit in this trough, or not a trough, but on this ledge. That's it. It's quite a bit of work to design, fabricate, and finalize, almost finalize this panel. And as you can see, it's turned out quite well. These rear quarters have to be, there we go, it almost fell into place. That's got to be sucked in, clamped, corners have to be made. So a lot of work left, but we're well on our way. Hopefully, next time you see this, we'll have the exhaust mocked up, see how the tips look in here. We might, I don't know yet, add a little feature just above that, above the hole there. Maybe give it a little more something, I don't know. Sometimes less is more. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you in the next one, guys. Take care. Now, the Ford designers did a fantastic job on the 51. I mentioned that before, but this is a custom. And when I close my eyes and I think of a custom 51, there's a lot of custom 51s, but when I close my eyes, I see this one. So that's what we're building, and hopefully it turns out in the end.